Hello, good morning, and welcome to the Dailies on Network Television, where we keep you updated with all that is happening on the paper. Today being Thursday, the 18th of April, 2024. I am Sele Lashidashum, and I'm doing the program alongside Rachel Tansy. Good morning.
Morning, Sele.
All right, and to our viewers at home, please do remember you can be part of the conversation. Drop your comment, your views on Facebook or YouTube, and then we'll do well to go through them and see how we can provide some of the solutions to things that are happening. Where we're seeing one of the top stories on the paper is where we have the EFCC talking about the arrest of the former governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, and then how Kogi State governor interrupted and all of that. And there have been also a circular coming from EFCC talking about people who are obstructing their work. So we'll do well to go through the story and other stories that are also relevant in the paper this morning. We shall be starting with the Daily Times newspaper.
And the big story on the paper, we are resolute in achieving economic security for all Nigerians, says those who threaten the sovereignty of Nigeria will pay a heavy price. These are statements from President Bola Tinubu. You can find details on page 2. Court decides Nnamdi Kanu's request for bail, house arrest May 20th. Stop threatening Kaduna Assembly Speaker tells El-Rufai's son. This is concerning the probe of his expenses, of El-Rufai's expenses during his 8-year tenure as the Kaduna State Governor. Details can be found on page 5. APC crisis, court restrains Ganduje from parading self as national chairman. Alleged 80 billion naira money laundering, EFCC arraigns Yahaya Bello today. Tension, anxiety greet PDP NEC meeting as pressure mounts on Damagum to resign. No vacancy in National Chairman's office, says supporter. Governor says all crises resolved as IU withdraws court cases. And we have don't fall for Wike's streak. Secondus cautions party. You can start with the details on the front page. NIMET TAHMO signs Memorandum of Understanding to expand network of weather stations across Nigeria. You can find details on page 4. And then we have a weather report where we can see flood sweeps through the United Arab Emirates. This happened yesterday, and the credit is from X. And that's all the news on the Daily Times newspaper.
On the Punch newspaper, starting with a big story, here we have El-Rufai marketers' fuel subsidy claim wrong, coming from the federal government and the NNPC. Bring evidence of subsidy payment, tells El-Rufai and marketers, coming from Lukubiri. He is telling El-Rufai and marketers. NNPC insists it is recovering full cost marketers peg petrol at 900 naira to a liter. And I actually didn't know that eventually the federal government and the NNPC were actually going to respond, because we saw that on Tuesday coming from El-Rufai during his lecture in Maiduguri. And then yesterday again, we also saw another source coming out to say that they actually agreed that there's still a payment of petrol subsidy. And here we're seeing the federal government insisting, if you say that this is what it is, then bring your evidence, bring your facts. I mean, yes, we saw El-Rufai saying about 8 trillion naira have been paid from May last year down till this year. And also, it saw yesterday say over 7 point something trillion naira have been paid. So here we're seeing the federal government saying that they need to bring their evidence if they are claiming that this is what it is. But then we hope to see how this whole story or back and forth will actually turn out to be. But we hope to have the facts, because Nigerians deserve to know what is really happening. We need to have a transparent government, and also we need to be accountable for the funds, because definitely Nigerians will say, okay, where is the money that we were supposed to be paying subsidy? We're supposed to see that money being channeled to other things, but then, I mean, everything seems to be quiet. Nigerians don't know what is happening. So we hope that in as much as the EFCC, or actually the federal government rather, needs evidence, they as well need to be accountable to Nigerians by giving them breakdown of what they have been using, how much have been recovered, and then what will be used for the money eventually.
So that if for some reason this is true, because we want to, take the government by their words and say there's no subsidy, because they are saying we are not. But if for some reason that subsidy is still being paid, and then we have a government lying to its people, then I think we're just about to witness one of the most corrupt administration ever in Nigeria, because we're talking about billions and trillions of naira that won't be accounted for, that will just go on there without anybody knowing or understanding what it has been used for. Are we saving from subsidy or not? Then we need to see it. Are we paying? Then how much are we paying? What is really going on the ground? If for some reason this is what is happening, and then we have a different thing coming out from the federal government and then the NNPCL together, then I think that we are in for a lot of trouble, that we would have billions and trillions of naira unaccounted for. And then whether we like it or not, that is just another peak of corruption in Nigeria, and over the period of time, it might even be more than what we've had in the past. So I just hope that we will not just have with word. Marketers might not have access to documents showing that NNPCL is still paying subsidy. Of course not. What they have access to is how much the cost of bringing petroleum into the country is now, and what should be the fuel pump price. Of course, they should know. If I am into a business, I should know how much this thing is being brought into the country, whether I am the sole importer of it or not. And if this is the amount, for sure, they wouldn't be lying about the landing cost. And then if this is the landing cost, then this should be the fuel pump price. Of course, when it comes to this information, they are 100% in the know of what it cost for petrol to come. What they will not have access to is whether or not proof that the federal government is still paying subsidy, because you need documents. It's not just word of mouth. You need to show that, okay, this is payment for subsidy December, this is payment for subsidy January, this is payment for subsidy in February, and all of that. So we'll just wait and just hope that truly what we have our government saying to us is what it is. And if it's not, then we are in for trouble, because we are now about to face an administration that trillions and billions of naira will not be accounted for, because there's no transparency. And I'm just looking forward to the federal government not just saying we are not, but show it that you are not paying also, because you are. It might not be to all of us, but to the bodies that I need to see these things, that it's important for them to see this, and then we can have some accountability and then transparency, most importantly. But if not, we're just in the dark, and it's just my word against your word between NNPCL, El-Rufai, the other source, and then the federal government and the rest involved.
Well, I think as it is presently right now, they should just bring out their own facts. Whoever is talking right there, just bring your facts. I think that's what Nigerians are interested in. Now, still on the Punch newspaper, policemen Kogi Governor fuel EFCC attempt to arrest Yahaya Bello with the rider anti-graft agency condemns obstruction of arrest, which I said they issued a memo warning that anybody who actually obstruct them from walking actually risks 5 years imprisonment. So you can do well to read more detail of that on page 12. Cardoso link depleting reserve to debt repayment. Cardoso link depleting reserve to debt payment. CBN stopped the banks from lending 50% of deposits. More detail of that can be found on page 18. PDP governors warn against illegality as NEC meets today. Other stories on the paper: heavy punishment await person threatening Nigerians' unity, coming from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Federal government to execute $3.8 billion gas supply agreement in May. 29 Yoruba nation agitators remanded. Oyo demolishes base. APC drag Kano judge over the NJC over Ganduji's suspension. You can find more detail of that on page 13. And we have a picture story here where we can see President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, his chief of staff, with Afenifere leaders and others on Wednesday at the presidential villa where they were having a meeting. You can do well to grab the paper in more detail of any other story that is of interest to you.
On leadership, the big story: APC-PDP crisis. Ganduje battles for survival. Damagum knows fate today. The writer saying Ganduje fingers NNPP in Kano crisis. Youth back national chairman as Ward Esco's petition NJC. NEC will decide on Damagum today. Coming from PDP governors, you can find details on page 4. On electricity tariff, 65% of private businesses risk shutting down. It's not our intention to defend Naira. This is coming from the Central Bank of Nigeria. We have trending, coroner says Onomori's died of natural causes. We've been seeing this on the paper since Monday. And then we have numbers saying Nigeria's inflation rises to 33.2%. Details can be found on page 2. Controversy trails conflicting court orders over Yahaya Bello's arrest. Kanu knows fate on fresh bail. House arrest bid May 20th. Federal government raises over $1 billion to boost local production of drugs. You can find details on page 7. Bobrisky moved to Kirikiri from Ikoyi prison. Details can be found on page 14. SEC FRC get 21-day ultimatum on 45 billion naira unremitted funds. Details can be found on page 33. And then we are seeing picture story where we can see confusion as operatives of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission lay siege to the resident of former governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, where we are having allegations that the present governor of Kogi State helped him escape his residence in Abuja yesterday from being arrested by the EFCC. However, the Financial Crimes Commission is saying that for sure they will get him today. And that's all the news on Leadership newspaper.
We're still on the issue of that on the Blueprint newspaper. Here we are having the alleged 84 billion naira fraud, where we have clash of court orders as EFCC bid to arrest ex-Kogi Governor Bello fails, and we have the FHC issue warrant of arrest. Kogi State HC restrained the anti-graft body, and then Ododo visit and battle predecessor Bello seek Tinubu's intervention. And I think if you have nothing to hide, I mean, this is what we have been saying. I clearly remember the EFCC stating categorically that once all these governors are down, they will be going after them in case they just find that there's any fraudulent activity that you've actually consulted or money embezzlement, they will come for you. Yeah. And I feel that if you have nothing to hide, no skeleton in your drawers, no worms to be afraid that anybody's going to open, you should submit yourself to be interrogated. After all, you are not being arrested yet. It's just for an interrogation to get to hear your answer, and it's either you are guilty or not. So all of this running around, sometimes raise an eyebrow and it makes it look as if you're actually guilty and you're running away from being interrogated. We know that there was a time Nigerians were actually against the way the EFCC do buckle into people's homes, and then I remember Okorocha had an episode where they came in through his roof, make a little, and then he had to make a live video telling people this is what is happening. And I believe there was some rectification. They talked about it, the fact that they should stop arresting people in that way. But here I believe that if you have nothing to hide, not just to Yahaya Bello, but to every other governor, because we know that we've had leaders whereby when you come into the treasury of your state, there was money, but when you're leaving, you leave nothing, and then you even leave the state in debt. We have a number of it. I remember where Sarah was saying that we should have even the Senate president be questioned, and other former governors are in the Senate. They need to be questioned about the way they actually handle funds in their various states. So I'm hoping and I'm trusting that he's not found guilty. But I just believe just for us to have a country where we can know that corruption is no longer thriving, submit yourself whatever questioning it is, and let us have people stop obstructing. We keep saying the fact that the law is king, and therefore as a rule of law, everybody is answerable to it eventually, regardless of who you are. Even the president can be calling to ask a question, if not for certain immunities that protect them from being questioned. Nobody is beyond that. Yes. If you have nothing to hide, submit yourself a questioning, and if whatever is being found, let the law take its full course. So let's just keep our fingers crossed. We are seeing EFCC are saying they are going to make the arrest today. So let us see how this whole thing is going to turn out to be eventually.
So like, if you resist arrest, then you must be taken in by force, whatever measure. I mean, the case of Richards might record them burgling, but I bet it's because he didn't show up when they asked him to, and they have to go and get him. So if it means bringing down his house to get him, they will get him. And that has been the case for EFCC. It's like that for every law enforcement. There's always a simple civilian way of telling you, show yourself up. Or when they go, they arrest you, they find you. If you don't resist, it's a simple process. When you resist, it becomes very violent and all of that. So if you have nothing to hide, just as you said, Salem, you should show up. It's a probe, it's an allegation, it's an investigation. You're supposed to show yourself up for an investigation to stop assumptions, speculations, the what ifs and whatnots and all of that. And then if you are hiding and if you are running, then they have to, because they are on a job and on attack, they just have to get you by every means and whatsoever way. This is not the first time we've seen top officials. We can talk about Emefiele, for example, and what he went through. His house definitely was searched to see if anything could be found, the allegations of weapons and all of that. So the same way, if you are being questioned or under the radar for investigation for any type of fraud or whatever will be the situation that it is, first of all, it's expected that, you know, there has to be thorough searching of you to be able to find out, could this person, because their document, implicating document needs to be found, and every other thing that will prove that this is true concerning what we are trying to find out about you or is false, regardless of what the finding will be at the end of the day. So Yaya Bello should not run. I mean, he should go answer the questions and then come out free or remain in detention, depending on what the investigation will be at the end of the day. But I am hoping that it's not just him, Selem. There are many people out there that are going scot-free for some reason, with the embezzlement, the fraudulent activity, just as you said, leaving the states dry, unpaid salaries and all of that, and governors have to come on the start from the scratch, and then it's just the same roller coaster of craziness going on within the cycle of government when it comes to embezzling of funds. And you will be like, so this state have 84 billion for somebody to embezzle, and you can imagine what 84 billion will do for that state. And you wonder, so we have this kind of money for somebody to comfortably steal and all of that, for example, and you just can't help but wonder the advancement if this money was to be inserted in the right places and used, what it would have done for that state. And not only Kogi State, is Nigeria entirely. When you see and hear the kind of amount of money people see, you can't just help but wonder and be mesmerized on a lot of levels. That imagine if this money was used appropriately, I don't think we will be where we are. So let the Financial Crimes Commission do their job very well and recover this money, and let's see how it's being channeled the right way.
Very true, because they cannot just go about arresting without having evidence or facts of saying certain things is implicating you. So our fingers are crossed to see how this whole thing turned out to be. Still on Blueprint newspaper, Nigerian dons and other professionals in Cameroon jail beg for federal government's intervention. More detail found on page 7. APC petition the NJC CGN over suspension of Ganduje. Tinubu commend Dangote Group over the new diesel price, which we will recall has been slashed to 1,000 naira to a litre. And then on sport, we have NFF may announce the new Super Eagles coach today for those who have just been expecting who will be the new coach. So hopefully, maybe today we will get to know who the new coach will be. Other story, we have rising prices. We will use legal framework to enforce consumer protection. This is coming from the FCCPC, which we spoke about yesterday. It is their work to monitor the price of goods in the market and also to protect consumers and concerning people who are exploiting people in the market. You can find more detail on the front page and on page 8. Ahead of today's next meeting, PDP National Working Committee passes confidence vote on Damagun, with the rider governor saying no fraction in party, IU withdraws suit. Stop threatening, intimidating the Kaduna State House of Assembly. Speaker warned El-Rufai's son, and I wonder why he goes about doing that. Maybe he should be sanctioned to stop doing things such as that. More details shall be found on page 6. Nigeria can lead Africa to compete in global market. Nigeria can lead Africa to compete in global market. Coming from Uni, you can find detail on page 10. And on terrorism, Kanu's fresh bill requires gross abuse of court process. This is coming from the federal government. And we have a picture story where we can see the vice president of the country together with other stakeholders. You can do well to grab the paper, read more detail of any other story that is of interest to you.
On Daily Sun, EFCC arraigns ex-Kogi Governor Bello today. Commission accuses him of failing to honor summons, barricades Wuse home. Courts give counter orders on arrest and trial. You can find details on page 4. APC rejects court order on Ganduje suspension. Planned arraignment of party chair stalled in Kano. No shaking Tinubu behind me, coming from ex-Kano governor. On IPOB, Kano gives condition for his trial. Court decides April 20th. Electricity tariff hike 65%. Manufacturing firms, SMEs may shut down. This is a report from OPS, and you can find details on page 23. OB condemns poor power situation, wants technical task force in place. Enugu farmer petitions police over false alarm on agri PPP with government. This is on Ruga. You can find details on page 27. Ohaneze to honor Ezefe with Hero Award. Details on page 25. CBN cuts loan to deposit ratio by 50%. We're aware of plots to destabilize party coming from governors. This is concerning the PDP meeting. IU withdraws court case as Wike attends National Caucus meeting. Set up committee to probe anti-party activities by members. An advice from Clark. Tinubu to agitators, you will pay heavy price. We have two picture stories where the one at the top from left to right, we can see Governor Siminalayi Fubara of Rivers State, and then we have Sheriff Oboriwori of Delta, we have Diri of Bayelsa, Bala Muhammad of Bauchi, Fintiri of Adamawa, and then we have Eno of Akwa Ibom during People Democratic Party Governors Forum meeting that took place in Abuja yesterday. And one with Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos State, and then the Deputy Governor, and then former Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, and then we have this Executive Secretary, Lateef Jakinde at the Leadership Academy, and then we have Aisad during the Lagos Leadership Summit in Lekki. This happened yesterday, and that's all the news on Daily Sun newspaper.
On the Vanguard newspaper, on electricity tariff hike, 65% of businesses may shut down. This is coming from private sectors, talking about the fact that as a result of the hike, and we've talked about that here, Richard, the fact that government needs to look into this tariff hike because definitely businesses are going to be affected. We are not seeing the light. Even if you are going to increase the tariff, we are seeing that we're paying for darkness, and then let's not even talk about how much you have to buy. You have to buy either a liter of diesel or a liter of fuel, depending on what kind of business you're operating. So definitely, when we are seeing that over 4 million businesses shut down last year, I wonder how many more businesses will be closing down this year because of the tariff hike. So we hope the government will look into that, as we're seeing the private organizations are talking about that. More details found on page 32. Coalition threat, PDP governors move to avert implosion. More detail found on page 7. And on train-in contract dispute threaten Nigeria's LNG expansion plan. Rising prices of foodstuff, FCCPC deploys operators to market, and I think it's important. That is the only way we can control this price. Let us have them going down to all of our major markets and be sure that the prices are being regulated. Still on Vanguard, a big story coming from Kaduso, the CBN governor. He said CBN not using reserve to defend Naira. Ways and means no longer an issue. We made hard decision quickly enough. as expectation of Nigerians often misplaced, and then Nigerians FX reserve dropped to $32 billion. You can find more detail of that on page 9. And on the Yoruba nation, Oyo government demolishes Onitiri Abiola's residence, more detail on page 10. Ganduje kicks as Lagos court affirm his suspension. And we have those threatening Nigerian sovereignty have price to pay, coming from the President Tinubu. And on the killings in Benue State, we have Benue community protest, herdsmen attack, once grazing law strictly enforced. More detail found on page 9. So we have to look at the various states and which law actually will fit the state, because these killings are becoming something else. And we hope that those behind it will be brought to book. We still have a sport where we have Boniface rates better finisher than Haaland. You can find detail of that sports story on page 38. And here the picture story is on Nigeria at the World Bank IMF spring meeting in Washington, D.C. You can do well to grab the paper and see what's the discussion about during that meeting, and that's all on the Vanguard newspaper.
On Nigerian Tribune, the big story, Kano High Court affirms Ganduje's suspension, restrains him from parading self as APC member. Restrains him from parading self as APC member. We won't comply with court order on Ganduje's suspension, APC vows. Tinubu is the target, says national chairman. APC NWC drags Kano High Court judge before NJC. Details can be found on page 5. Train 8, Nigerian LNG expansion threatened by alleged contract breaches. Oyo Secretariat invasion, 78-year-old man, 28 others arraigned for treasonable felony, possessions of firearms. Government demolishes Yoruba Nation agitators' buildings. You can find details on page 15 and 3. All set for PDP NEC, governors meet, speak on Damogun and others. IU withdraws case against removal as national chairman. PDP NWC passes vote of confidence in Damogun. Don't fall for Wike's trick, Secondus cautions APC NEC. Under 2024, 7 APC governorship aspirants alleged printing of fake membership card for non-members. Tinubu vows to deal with criminals threatening Nigeria's sovereignty. More details can be found on page 3. Still on Nigerian Tribune, after hours of drama over arrest bid, EFCC says Yahya Bello will be arraigned today. EFCC floating court order, statement from Bello, cites subsisting court order restraining agency from arresting, detaining, and persecuting him. Supreme Court has said no court can gag EFCC and others, a statement from Falana. The CSO's activists caution EFCC against misrepresenting Nigeria as lawless society. More details can be found on page 2, and that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
On the Guardian newspaper, the big story, poor funding model, PUCT stalled the $3.2 billion Eastern Rail project 3 years after, where we're seeing the project was flagged off in March 2021 for delivery in 2023 to be funded by 85% foreign loan and 15% federal government counterpart contribution. The $3.2 billion project has been stalled by funding and the removal of all rail tracks without a definite plan for their replacement worries resident, of course. And then you see that we already have some of our trains, and then they are not operating. Why? Because we are having the old tracks have been removed and the new ones are not being replaced, and you wonder what is happening from 2021 down to now, and we are not having poor funding actually stopping these rail projects from working. So you can read more detail of that story on page 6. Terrorists abduct 2 pregnant and 8 nursing mothers, 10 others in Castina. Terrorists abduct 2 pregnant women, 8 nursing women, and then 10 others in Castina. More detail on page 29. OPSN won 200% electricity tariff hike may cripple 65% of businesses. That's a business story on page 18. Politically exposed convict how not to pardon and exercise puricative of mercy. More detail found on page 4. Court affirms Ganduje sack, APC kicks against it. Why Nigerians foreign reserve dips by Cardoso. You can read why that happened. All eyes on PDP governors as IU lawsuit withdrawal alters balance for Damagum. Detail found on page 6. Federal government kicks as Kanu list condition for resumption of trial, and then Afenifere leaders visit Tinubu, demand restructuring, security, and the Southwest development. More detail found on page 7, and that's all on the Guardian newspaper.
On the Matrix newspaper, the big story, Yahaya Bello's alleged 80 billion naira theft case. Drama as conflicting court orders may hamper trial of ex-Kogi governor. AFCC flexes muscles, warns against further obstruction of its operations. Falana blows hard, says no court can prevent AFCC from prosecuting Yahaya Bello. Details can be found on page 2. IMF envisions Nigeria's inflation dropping to 26.3% before next year. On the UEFA Champions League, end of road for EPL clubs as Bayern, Real Madrid send Arsenal and Man City packing. Atiku Wike finally met at PDP National Caucus meeting ahead of NEC meeting today. Former PDP chair Ayu withdraws appeal against removal. Your claim on subsidy payments wrong, federal government replies RFI and marketers. Soludo government demolished filling station with valid permits coming from Ipman. You can find details inside the paper. Transfer from DSS custody, Nnamdi Kanu knows fade on May 20th. Naira abuse, Davido delighted as court grants Cubana chief priest 10 million naira bail. National grid collapse, OB urges federal government to set up task force to address recurring incidences. On fraud, failure to serve criminal charges notice stalls Ganduje's trial. You can find details on the front page. And then we have a picture story where we can see President Bola Ahmed Tinubu receiving leaders of Afenifere, and that's all the news on the Matrix newspaper.
All right, before we continue further with the paper analysis, quite a lot of stories for you to choose. So when we come back, we will continue with the paper review. Please stay tuned with us. Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, the program is the Dailies. We have been looking at a number of stories on the paper where EFCC said they will be arresting the former governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, today for over 84 billion naira fraud, which we look forward to seeing more stories concerning that, and also the issue of Nnamdi Kanu to know his fate by May 20th, and he has given some conditions as well. And then we are also seeing the president saying that those who are threatening the sovereignty of the country have a price to pay. So we hope that you follow us live and continue to, review the stories, drop your comment on our Facebook and YouTube. I still have Rachel with me in the studio. Thank you, Rachel.
You're welcome, Sally.
All right, let's take a look at the New Telegraph newspaper, starting with a big story. Court grant order suspending Ganduje as the APC national chairman. We won't obey the order. It's unlawful, coming from APC. Alleged fraud, Ganduje absence from court store arraignment. And the new analysis is saying, will Gandoji go like Oshomole? This is a question. You can find more detail on page 2, 3, and 4. CBN didn't use reserve to defend the Naira, coming from Cardoso, saying Nigeria received additional $600 million inflow. So you can follow up that story in the paper. And on the new tariff, Nigeria trails Germany, UK as countries with the highest electricity costs. More detail found on page 8. Zulum 1.3 billion naira intervention, largest in Nigeria, coming from the Nursing Council. And we're really seeing that the medical people over there are really enjoying, because despite the insecurity there, the governor is trying to make sure that, you know what, the health workers, they are well being taken care of. We hope that other states will take a lead from there as well. And on the 2027 election ahead, Atiku Wike presidential ambition will collapse PDP. Clark wants more detail found on page 2. Nnamdi Kanu knows fate May 20th in application for restoration of revoked bill. And on alleged Naira abuse, court grant Cubana chief priest 10 million Naira bill after saying that he is not guilty for that offense. More detail found on page 6. PDP National Working Committee passes confidence vote in Damagum. More detail found in the paper. And then we have attack against Titanic security sponsored by oil thief, coming from Ijon Youth, detailed on page 4. Nigeria professors chill in Cameroon seek reps intervention, detail found on page 29. Arrange Ruga, my wife's children shareholders, not northerners, coming from Enugu Farmer. And here we are having EFCC versus Bello, drama as Kogi Abuja court issue conflicting orders. Kogi court bars EFCC from arresting Bello, and then EFCC secures Abuja court not actually to arrest and arraign the ex-governor. Ex-Kogi governor to Tinubu call anti-graft agency to order Nigeria not lawless country. You can follow up that on page 2. Tinubu to Afenifere leaders, those threatening Nigerian sovereignty will pay heavily. And I think that is in regard to the Yoruba agitators that have been arrested. More detail found on page 4 and 5. And we have a study that says reducing trans fat in Nigerian food can prevent 10,000 deaths. More detail of that can be found on page 26. We have a picture where we can see Cardoso and others. Do well to grab the paper, read more detail of any other story that is of interest to you.
On First News, Tinubu directs inclusion of NOUN graduates in NYSC scheme and law school. My seat remains unshakable, Ganduje tells Kano government as APC chairman, wife, son, orders corruption trial stalled. AFCC siege shootout as Kogi governor smuggle Yahaya Bello out of Abuja residence. Anti-graft agencies operatives Kogi governor security details exchange fire. Court gives conflicting order on Bello's arrest, prosecution as AFCC obtains arrest warrant for ex-Kogi governor. How AFCC DSS police plan to forcefully arrest Yahaya Bello before Governor Ododo's arrival. Kano court affirms Ganduje's suspension. Court order not enforceable, says APC. Ex-governor receives solidarity from Kano ward executives. Wike Atiku meet at PDP caucus meeting ahead of NEC as party's NWC passes vote of confidence in Damagum. G60 PDP lawmakers, we are not backing anyone as national chairman. On Naira abuse, court grants Cubana chief priest 10 million Naira bail, seizes his international passport. After trial, brags money now water. Police arraign 29 Yoruba nation agitators in Ibadan as Oyo demolishes their building. Cardoso links depleting reserves to debt repayment. El-Rufai's probe, we won't be intimidated by your threat, Kaduna speaker tells ex-governor's son. Bandits marching Kaduna residents into forest. And that's all the news on First News newspaper.
On Nigerian News Direct, all who threaten Nigerian sovereignty will have themselves to blame. Tinubu to Yoruba agitators, more detail inside the paper. Bank's LDR drops to 50%, and then NCDMB earns $1 million from investment in the NEDO gas. More detail found inside the paper. On Naira mutilation, Cubana chief priest plead not guilty, girls gets bail. Alleged 80.2 billion naira fraud, EFCC face resistance as Governor Odudu rescues Yahaya Bello from arrest. As Bello accuses anti-graft agency of flouting the court order, supporters allege witch hunt of former governor, and then EFCC wants individuals from obstructing operative, and then insists Bello not above the law. More detail found inside the paper. Kebbi governor hands over 10 hectares to Nasini for Agricultural Machinery Institute. And on the 2024 7 aspirant petition, APC national chairman alleged distribution of fake membership cards. More detail can be found inside the paper. We have a picture story where we will recall yesterday we also saw where the first lady is trying to work together with the Southwest women on how they can empower them into agriculture. You can find more detail of that. But just to add up a little, Rachel, with what is happening, we know that the court is the third arm of government, the judiciary. But I wonder why we are having conflicting orders, one coming from the court in Kogi State, another coming from the court in Abuja, where Abuja is saying, go ahead and arrest him. And then Kogi is saying, no, you cannot arrest him. And we also saw Falana adding up his voice to say that, you know what, Nigeria is not a lawless place, we need to follow order. Now, why can't we just have a synergy or an understanding coming from these two courts, where we have in the courts having conflicting report concerning whether or not the governor can be arrested? I'm hoping, I look forward to a judicial system where we have things working in order, where we don't have confusion. That is the word, where we do not have confusion, because this whole drama is a result of confusion, where we are having the courts having conflicting order whether or not to arrest it. So we just hope that let us have where we have an understanding, where we do not have confusion in a judicial system concerning whether or not a particular order should be followed or not eventually.
The way our judiciary behaves, Sarah, is the more reason we are having the country looking lawless than more lawful. Now, it became an arrest because he failed to answer when he was summoned. Because at first he was just called, yeah, just come and answer. We just have a few questions for you. Because, okay, we have this on our table. There's an allegation. There are these discrepancies in your spendings and all of that. We need answer. This has been brought to us and we need to look into it. So please, Governor Yahaya Bello, former governor, please, can you come to our office for questioning? And then you did not show up, and then it becomes an arrest. So why would the court now say you shouldn't arrest a person who violated a simple law of just showing up to answer something? He already becomes a criminal for not showing up when he's being summoned. So do we have our judiciary system now trying to protect certain people when they're obviously violating certain things? You are supposed to be one of the, you're not, but you are actually the highest form of maintaining law and order in the country. You are the highest form. So when somebody violated a simple law and you are still granting that person not to be arrested, you can't help but wonder, you are the reason why we look lawless out there to a large extent, because you are supposed to allow the Financial Crimes Commission to do what they are expected to do, because it wouldn't have been an arrest if he had answered his summon in the first place. So let the judiciary just put their heads together, Sarah, because they've just been back and forth with them ever since the election, general election 2023. It's almost like there's just a revamp that needs to be done in our judiciary. At the same time, I believe that that's not it. It's simply but the judiciary placing certain people above the law. It's simply the judiciary being sold out. That's what it is. It's not because we have any problem with our constitution or not. It's just the judiciary doing what they want to do, and whether we like it or not, it shows that there is a crack, it shows that there is corruption, it shows that there is sellout left, right, center in our judiciary system, and it's really sad. So let them get their acts together, and you wonder, is the law different in Kogi State or in Abuja? It's the same thing. It's the same constitution. Is the AFCC in the right path to say, okay, come for questioning? Yes, they are. And if he refuses, are they on the right path to arrest him? Yes, they are. So what is your own law that you are using to say he has violated this and that, so he shouldn't be arrested? What are we having different laws or what? So I believe that let the judiciary in Nigeria just stop compromising our law and stop making it look like certain people are above the law, and then let it be equal at whatever level.
Very true, Rachel. So look forward to seeing that synergy and understanding our judicial system. Well, that's all on Nigerian News Direct.
On Daily Independent, Bello versus EFCC. Confusion as Court of Coordinate Jurisdiction ignores restraining order. We won't obey court order obtained by fraud. A statement from Ganduje. This is concerning, no, this statement is from APC concerning Ganduje. NNPP plotting to destroy APC before 2027, says Ganduje, and Ganduje has to obey court order, then appeal. A statement from lawyers. The big story on the paper: Nigeria unattractive with high visa and $170 biometric fees. This is coming from experts. PDP neck: we won't allow marauders factionalize our party. Governors warn. North Central perfect plan to name national chairman. 13,000 megawatts for 200,000 megawatt demand unacceptable. This is coming from Peter Obi, says Nigeria has the lowest per capita wattage in the world, and that is very true. Compared to the power generation of other countries, we are at a very low side. You can find details on page 7. Dangote refinery crashing of diesel price excites Tinubu. Court to rule on Nnamdi Kanu's plea seeking restoration of bail May 20th. Still on the paper, stakeholders tax insurance regulator operators on image of sector. Mass unemployment: Tinubu considers social security policy for vulnerable Nigerians. And that's all the news on Daily Independent.
On Business Day newspaper, Naira gains put spotlight on petrodollar inflow. You can find detail on the front page and on page 31. 7 out of 10 businesses risk closure over electricity tariff hike coming from the organized private sector. Once 225 megawatts rate suspended. Okay, talking about every of the this, and we have to buy 225 naira rather. Organized private sector wants 225 naira megawatts rate suspended. You can find detail of that story inside the paper. Federal government woes foreign investors for infrastructure and manufacturing. You can turn to page 3 to see more detail of what that was all about, and that's all on Business Day newspaper.
On Sporting Sun, Arsenal kicked out. So we have Bayern winning 1-0 and then with an aggregate of 3-2. Cole Palmer misses out on huge Chelsea goal bonus, and we have Sancho gives condition for Man United return. QPR Union SG set for battle for Wembley. You can find details on page 6. Mbappe moves into top 10, that is scorers Champions League and UEFA Champions League all-time top scorer list. You can find details at the back page. We have Poli could use Chukwueze as joker against Roma. Arsenal earns additional £2 million windfall from Leno's sale. You can find details on page 2. Juventus joins race to sign Ndidi in summer. Details can be found on page 6. Still on Europa League, Atalanta gears up for biggest game in club's history. Moyes won't risk Bowen for Leverkusen cracker. You can find details on page 3. And we have Naomi Osaka stunned in Rowan Open, her first clay match since 2022. You can find details at the back page. The big story: NFF decides on new Super Eagles coach today. Odds favor foreign coach. Technical committee divided over Omuneke and Finidi. That's all the news on Sporting Sun newspaper.
Well, thank you so much to our viewers and also our supporters for being a part of this program. Thank you, Rachel, for doing this with me. Until we come your way again tomorrow, please do have a great day ahead.